here tonight, so please be welcome to the stage Ryan Brooks, Clem Onawutu, Jack Latoy and Alex Pashali. Okay, and questions from the floor? Yep, question my way.
Hi, I'm on the committee for one of the very few societies at the university that primarily focuses around drinking. Given some of the previous statements made, there's very much a push away from this sort of society, despite the fact that we advocate responsible drinking as well as integration into the local community. How would you, as a vice president, approach that sort of a thing in future, as maybe not necessarily a blanket move away from the societies that do that sort of thing?
Me first?
Yeah.
Well, I think you've sort of answered your own question there. Is you promote, Real Island Side promote responsible drinking, and that's what we are trying to strive for, is responsible drinking from students, not no drinking from students. We're not trying to ban it across campus. We're not trying to stop people drinking because people do drink. That's their choice. We're not trying to enforce, some totalitarian state on them. But I think it's key that actually we use those kind of societies to promote those values across the board. So we actually have another society that people always see from the outside as primarily about drinking, which is our beer pong society. And actually they host events weekly. It is a game that involves drinking. However, they make sure that people who want to do it with soft drinks can do it with soft drinks. So I think as long as we're promoting those values of responsible drinking, no one's going to come in and try and stop people doing what they do. They just want to try and make sure that it's inclusive to as many people as possible.
In response to your question, I think we are not going to force people not to drink, but we can encourage people to be wise in drinking, and we are not going to try to force people to don't do this, don't do that, but the rules are there, so we play by the rules. So if anybody so wish that it's good for me to drink, we are not going to force anybody, but we can encourage people to be fair in whatever they do and play by the rules. Thank you.
Well, I think Orion really hit the nail on the head with this one, which is that the move is away from binge drinking, excessive drinking, not from drinking for the purposes of relay on cider, where you're enjoying a shared interest. I've been along to a few of your meets, and I've been to the pub a few times with you, and it's not about the drinking, it's about the enjoyment of the drink. It's about enjoying the ale and the cider for what it is, not for the pleasure of getting drunk. So I think that union policies with regards to binge drinking won't affect societies like Real Ale and Cider and beer pong as well, because that's not the focus. It's not about getting drunk, it's about the enjoyment of the activity with friends who share a similar interest.
Oh, it's gone. Okay, cool. Okay, so some societies, like some drinking activity is quite a big part, but some societies not so much. As long as members are aware of responsible drinking, then it should be fine. As a union, you don't want to pull people away of the activity. If they are involved in the society because they like to drink, then you wouldn't want to push people away by stopping that. So we would like to encourage it, but they must be responsible.
Brilliant. Yeah, open the next question. Who's up first? Yeah, can you say, there's some guys that have just come in towards about, there's a row of seats up here if you want to come and jump on them. Brilliant.
Okay, so obviously within the societies under your remit, there are a lot of sports-based societies. Firstly, do you think these should be under your remit, or should they fall under the profession of VP Sport? And secondly, how do you feel like you can facilitate all the needs for these sports groups?
In answering your question, I've not held the office, and if elected, I think there are procedures to be followed. So if everything is going to fall under one umbrella, if we put it into vote and majority says that's what they want, fine. But if not so, we look for a fairer way a more holistic approach to it, and we'll make sure that everybody is happy with the final decision. Thank you.
So I think you're quite right. It's an issue where VP Activities and VP Sport really have to work together. But it does depend on the particular society you're talking about. Sports and physical societies are the second largest group after faith and cultural, making up a huge proportion of what VP Activities actually works with. And there's huge variety in there, where groups such as Reenactment Society come under that remit. However, they're not sports-based, they're physical though, so there is crossover there, but they definitely come under activities. Whereas groups like Quidditch is certainly a sport, however, the kinds of people who are getting engaged and the level that it's operating at is closer to that of other societies in terms of size and what it charges for people to join. So I think that VP Sports and VP Activities definitely have to work together with some societies, but not all, and to different degrees within those. Like five-a-side football obviously needs more input from VP Sports than the Reenactment Society. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, so there are some sports societies that would like to be part of AU, and some societies that would rather stay within the society section. I think it's quite important that sport-related societies know that they are receiving the right support from the union to keep on running, and that VP Activities and VP Sport have a good connection and work on either striving for those societies that want to be part of AU to get the certain criteria to be part of AU, or the ones that would like to remain as a society to be able to remain as a society but still be able to run at a good way and not struggle, because some societies that are sport related do struggle in running because they don't receive the right they don't receive all the perks that AU does, and it would be good that BP Activities does try and support them as much as possible with that.
Thank you. Well, I think this question really touches on a few issues. There's currently a divide between sports societies and sports in the AU because of the barrier. There is perks to being in the AU, but you have to meet certain criteria to get into the AU. And I think that a lot of that is to do with funding. And because funding models will be changing going forward, I think over the years that will start to relax. And I think we will see a certain shift where a lot more sports-based societies will move into the AU, because I think although students this year did vote to not reduce the criteria in terms of funding, I think that will change when the funding changes. And then they will be supported by VP Sports under that. It also touches on what was discussed earlier, is that whether or not VP Sports is VP AU or VP Sports. And I think really we should be taking guidance from the sports coordinator, from the VP Sports for sporting societies on how we can support them, but also look to, what might be controversial, put sports societies into the SLA so that they can get the facilities that they need to actually run their sports.
Nice timing. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, next on the floor. Lisa was there.
All of you have said that you want to increase participation.
We got her.
Hello? Oh, hi. Right. I think this is the first time it's worked. Right. All of you have said that you want to increase participation in your manifestos. To what extent do you believe that the union places too much focus on quantity rather than quality of experience?
Okay, so much like chocolate, quantity and quality are both important. And I believe that actually, if you're offering a better quality, that helps with the quantity. So, for example, in terms of my first manifesto point, looking at opening more venues and facilities for student groups to use, if you're offering people a better experience, they're more likely to stay. So a rule that we used to use back in one of my societies was a third of people who sign up at Freshers' Fair will actually turn up, a third of them will be there by Christmas, and a third will be there the next year. If you offer them a better quality experience, you're more likely to get that retention. You're more likely to see it being a third and then half rather than the third. And the better experience you can offer, the better your retention is. And retention is half of recruitment. There's no use in getting people along to a session and losing them by the next one. So I think you need a two-pronged attack. So you need the promotions, extra promotions around the union, but also to have the facilities to back that up.
I don't think it's quantity more than quality. It's making sure that students are aware of all the different opportunities that are available to them. So quite a few students aren't aware of all these different amazing opportunities that they could be a part of, and it would be nice to engage them so they are getting the full experience, full university experience. So yeah, not quantity, but getting more people engaged is nice because you could broaden your friendship groups, and yeah, I think getting them more engaged basically is good.
I think Alex has touched on a really good point actually, is that quality is very important, but quantity is not about us going, yay, we've got 6,000 people engaged. It's us going, yay, we've offered opportunities to 6,000 people. We've got this massive student body that we want to give them the opportunities, the fantastic things that our committees are running for these students. We want to get them in. We want them to know about it so that they can experience those. But then I think, following on from that, the more people you have engaged, the louder a voice you have from the student body, so we can make those changes that improve the quality. The more people are in there, the more people are going to spot something different that maybe we haven't seen before, so that we can improve it for the future and therefore give everybody a better experience. So I think quantity can, in some sense, breed quality going forward.
Thank you for your question. Thank you for your question. In respect of the question you've asked, in my manifesto, I've decided to have one of my 3 main points that when students volunteer with cost-based activities, like for instance, you are studying media and you're volunteering maybe with the student union in doing media and covering like events like this, those whatever you're doing, you count towards your credits. So if I'm elected into office, I have it in mind that I'll lobby the university, if possible, then all students can have Wednesday as free days to engage on course-related activities. So whatever you're doing, you can accumulate some credits towards your degree program, and I think that will help. And in the issue of, thank you.
Okay, one more from the floor. Yeah, I think Sam's up first.
Hi there. So my question, as RAG chair, RAG is an executive group of the union. They sort of operate as a society in some aspects, but I know the committee this year, they really want to drive towards becoming more of an exec, having that more exec feel. For one example, we want to take more of a role in the fundraising buckets that come through the university, through the union, get more involved in that. How would you help develop RAG to make it operate more like an exec?
Okay, so what I would do would be to have a meeting with RAG and to discuss the particular points that they would like to improve on, and to make sure that we can do that as a union and that they're happy. Also, it would be good if RAG did, so you feel that you're not, you would like to be bigger, more branch out, be more separate as a group than a society, not a society, but yeah. So yeah, have a meeting with RAG and make sure that what they'd like to do can be implemented and carry on.
I think to get RAG to be more like an exec than a society is going to take a cultural shift within the union. Currently, RAG are treated more as like a society committee than an executive committee because of the way that they're perceived to run. I think what really needs to happen in terms of structure, and that's some of those structural changes were put through in the Constitution recently, is running them more like the other execs. So an exec is it's a group of people who have other groups underneath them. I think RAG needs to look at the way that they run their international adventures, which are essentially, they've got a chair, say, of their international adventure who is the challenge leader, who is leading a group of 30. I think they need to look at them as individual groups that are supported by RAG as an exec, but they are their own groups, and they have perhaps even their own constitutions in the way they run, or at least some kind of document or policy that states this is how they're going to run. And then when we get members into RAG, there'll be members who are interested in certain factors within RAG. They're interested in doing a specific trip or specific elements like events and marketing, and they join those teams as if their societies within.
I think what we do if we get to office, what we do is we see the policy in place and see how to improve whatever that is on ground. It's going to be a policy that's going to be fair to all societies and clubs, not only RAG. So I think with that approach, we can make progress. Thank you.
So without wanting to sound like an echo, I think a lot of Orion's points are right. In order to operate as an exec, you need groups to preside over. To that end, I think that moving things like Jailbreak and Lost to operate more the way societies do, where that is a subsection of RAG, to have the same with Challenges, where they are a subsection of RAG that are then governed by the RAG committee itself as an executive, would be really great. Expanding on that, if you have Freshers' Fair, I think you could have a stand for each of these aspects at Freshers' Fair, giving RAG more presence. When RAG has more presence, more groups actually affiliated to it, at that point you can start to operate as an exec. I think also RAG Zone has been underexploited. When you compare it with Society Zone, where you've got individual groups coming in, having their say, which is the tagline, and actually making changes which the Society exec can work on, RAG Zone feels a bit more like it's just a fundraising meeting. So if we have fundraising meetings separate for members, and then RAG Zone to actually make...
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, question at the back.
Okay, yeah. One of the biggest problems I've seen from societies is actually the continuity from one year to the next. How would you overcome this challenge as Vice President of Activities?
Well, I'd like to think that if I managed to continue on in the role, that would bring some form of continuity. But I think really what it is, it's the policy changes that we make, the ideas that we action through Have Your Say, that are given to the operational staff, who are the ones who stay on year generally. If it gets passed on to managers, who usually stay a lot longer on than coordinators, we will be able to get longevity of ideas. Obviously, there's still every year people want to change things, and that's something that we kind of have to take into account, that they're going to continue to do that, and we do have a massive dropout. I'd say it's about 20 to 30 societies each year that don't continue on year to year, and that's, I think, really sometimes it's very cliquey committees where it's a few friends who have started it and they'll run the same committee for 3 years and then they won't really pass it on because it's become very small. But really it's about how we train them on handovers, and also how we train them on engagement generally. The more engagement we get, the more chance we are... I've got 5 seconds left and I've panicked, so I've run out of time. Thank you, bye.
I think if a good program is put in place, and when things are structured in line with various courses of studies, I believe that will improve the question that you've asked. For instance, if everything is streamlined to you belong to a particular society or club and it's relevant to your course of study and you're accumulating credits towards whatever you're doing, I think that will encourage people to enjoy whatever they're doing in societies or club. Thank you.
So, in terms of continuity, I think that actually something that would really help is improved training throughout the year. So the actual smooth running of a club is something that can really kill it if it doesn't go right. So we have training once a year at the moment at the start of the year when people are just getting into their roles. I think if we have more training throughout, and that's available to more people than just the people in those committee positions, that means that we've got people prepared to take on the smooth running of groups within activities. The issue comes from experiential knowledge being passed on, and unfortunately that is often, it's an individual case from society to society in RAG and media, where if you've got a group of third years who disappear and they don't pass that knowledge on, it's gone, and that can kill a group. I think actively encouraging people to take the handover period more seriously after AGMs around February really will help pass on that knowledge within student groups onto the next generation of people who are running. Particularly we've got third years going to first years.
So in terms of continuity, I'd say a way to overcome this issue would be to focus again, as I've said, on the handovers, so to offer as much support to the new committee as possible so they're able to know to go into their roles and be able to get students as engaged as possible at Freshers' Fair, get out there. Especially it would be good to have a meeting with the old committee, especially if they're third years and they've just set up the society, with the new committee, so they are aware of who to contact, what to do, all the different aspects that are involved in running the society, and to make sure that they still have the passion to keep the society running, because it's all about passion at the end of the day. It's when students get together to have fun and enjoy it, and to get as many people involved as possible. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, David's had his hand up for English. Front row.
Hi guys. Obviously Freshers' Fair is a great event and it helps engage a lot of students at the end of the year, especially in first years. However, in my own experience, a lot of people miss it or are unsure of what they want to do, so they sign up for a load of things, and a month down the line they regret it because they don't think they have enough time or anything. How would you combat that? Because obviously Freshers' Fair is a costly event. How do you combat that and help students engage in more? Because they all want to, it's just a case of when they first turn up, they don't know what they want to do.
In answering your question, I think if elected into office, what we do, we'll try to make it such a way that in open days, awareness to be created and more publicity on Freshers' Fair, so that students, prospective students who are coming in should be more aware of Freshers' Fair and know the importance it is for them to attend. I think when such publicities are being made and they are well of it, definitely they will grab the good opportunity and make good use of it. Thank you.
So we already have Refreshers Fair, which is a great event, but accessibility to that is sometimes limited, and actually running an event like Freshers or Refreshers is very expensive, as you pointed out. So it's not viable to actually increase the amount of that we do. However, there are a huge number of advertising outlets that we don't use to their best effect. Screens around university buildings within the student union that we could be putting advertisements on for student groups, or even just advertising where to find the advertisements if they're online. Do you understand what I mean by that? Yeah. But beyond that, I think that using our student media is a great avenue to actually promoting other aspects of student life and student activities. So actually encouraging people to engage with Galleon, Pugwash, Pure, etc. Having outlets for our student media within halls, within student buildings where people can easily access it would be really beneficial, because that way we also encouraged the integration of student groups and for groups to work together, for societies and RAG to work with media and make them into bigger, better things and reach more students.
So yeah, not all students are able to attend Freshers' Fair, which is an issue because they've got lectures or induction week. So a way to overcome this, I think, it's making sure students are aware of all the different events and that societies and all these different student groups are putting on, because a way to overcome this, like this was in my manifesto, it was heightened event awareness, and this bit did get cut off my manifesto, but it was to create a What's On app. So you could like download the app and then have different categories in the app with different events that are going on throughout the union, because quite a few students would like to be involved but aren't aware of all the different fundraising events or media opportunities or society groups that are out there that are carrying out all these amazing events that they don't know about. So yeah, an app.
Right, obviously I love the idea of an app, and I think that a union app gets talked about a lot, and whether or not that's feasible is something that I think goes through the ringer every couple of years. But in terms of Freshers' Fair, I don't think Freshers' Fair is a good event in general. I don't think it's a good way of signing people up. I think we should be getting people to try the sports. Like trials and tasters is something that we've been working on with Opportunities Week, and I think it's something that needs to grow, because you go to Freshers' Fair and you could sign up for, I'd say 70 free societies, and you could be on their membership list for all them. We could have a massive increase in our membership and have you turn up to no sessions at all. Whereas if you actually go and try something, you're much more likely to make that yes/no decision rather than the I can't be bothered decision, which is what most people make when they sign up for something at Freshers' Fair. So I think it's really important that we push on actually giving people a chance to have a go at those things rather than just getting to sign their name on a form in a big tent.
Have we got any manifesto-specific questions from anyone? Yep, sorry, the student at the back.
In your manifesto, you've all pointed to something along the lines of improving skills or opportunities for students. How specifically, most of you have mentioned names of current programs. How specifically would you improve on that and expand that and get students involved in developing themselves as well-rounded human beings for job prospects, etc., and things like that?
So you're asking how would you get students to improve their training, or?
Some of you put skill badging project. How would you run that and expand that and improve that?
Okay, so this one isn't in my manifesto, but skills improvement and training, etc., is always really important. We have some training available for committee members currently, but I do feel it is a bit lacking. For a start, I just repeaters on what's already there, refreshers at each term, I think would be really useful. But going beyond that, there are skills that are not taught and are unteachable to an extent. And I talked a bit about experiential experience earlier. I think it'd be great to have third-year students, people who have been presidents, alumni students, to do seminars, run talks on their experience, things that work, things that do not. Something that I'd love to do eventually as well is instead of training, but to have information available online. So something that I've always wanted to do is have a database of, for example, RAG events that are run by societies, by media, by RAG, where people can look and see, like, this is exactly how it was done, who did it, who they spoke to, who they had to contact. So you give people the ability to train themselves by making the information available to them online or through other avenues. Yeah.
So by being a part of all these different groups, societies, media, you are developing skills already by just taking part and being part of a team. Again, I feel like it's all about engaging students and making sure that all these opportunities are available to them. So with media, say, quite a few students aren't aware that they can get involved and they can write for The Guardian and they can have a show on Pure FM or be a part of UPSU TV. So they're really cool skills to have while you're at uni, and to develop those would be pretty great. So it's all about like advertising and making sure that they're aware of all these different opportunities and they just grab them and use them.
Okay, I think one of the key things is that, well, Alex touched on it, is that people are developing these skills while being in committee roles, while being in volunteer roles, doing things they're already doing. The skills badging system is something the union is working on already to try and track those skills, but it's about generally getting people to recognise the skills that they've learnt. So it's, I want to work with Purple Door and get them to come in and do sessions. We're going to trial a session with society's presidents at the AGM, where basically we're going to come in and get people to look at how they can transfer those skills and write them on their CV so that they can actually talk to employers about them. Because I think a lot of those skills people are already learning and they just don't understand how to translate them. So it's not about trying to reinvent the wheel, let's reteach them how to communicate, because people know how to verbally communicate. It's understanding how they can express that they know how to verbally communicate, and they have demonstrated that they can verbally communicate with people.
I think I mentioned this in my manifesto, I've said something about that before. Introduction, increase course-related societies, and improve personalized course timetable to enable students to participate in various volunteering activities. I've noticed that a majority of students struggle with their timetable, and if we try to have a model whereby most activities are structured in line to the course of study or whatever your interests are being recognized, and you go along those processes, definitely you'll be able to have time to engage in those activities. Thank you.
Yeah, Elizabeth's had her hand up for quite a while.
So obviously you've all been with the university for several years or however long. What changes have you already made to the student experience? So what can we see your trajectory from? So for instance, I know that some of you have mentioned in your manifestos, like Orion, you've done the rainbow laces, and Jack, you've helped up a couple of societies you mentioned, but what other things have you done that we can know about to judge you by, if that makes sense?
Okay.
Okay, so throughout my whole university experience, I've been heavily involved with dance club. So I was like a part of squads my first year, second year, and third year, and now I'm president. So like I've been involved in like running the club, been in contact with societies. Like we've performed at different events that societies have put on, that AU clubs have put on. We've taken part in lots of fundraising. We've exceeded our RAG total this year, like from last year's, and our members. Also, what we've done is I coach the squads as well, so we've got competitions coming up. So like making sure that we're reaching our deadline and we're getting all our choreos done and routines. So that's what I've done. I've like managed to dance the AU club and run it, and I think it's running smoothly. So yeah, cool beans.
Right, okay, let's try and get through as much as I can. Okay, when I was on the RAG committee in second year, I launched the RAG Portsmouth website, and also was part of getting the first ever RAG mag out, which showed a marked increase in involvement in RAG going forward from that. I was also station manager of PRFM at the same time. I worked to get them adverts on air and also news on at the end of the hour. I was also involved as Society's vice chair. I was helping to develop a guide to support new societies, but we also put through a lot of changes during the year there. A lot of things happen in committee meetings that affect policy, and it's hard to track every single one of them going forward. As media exec chair, I worked to help bring Pugwash back, which is now thriving, and they're about to put out their third issue very soon. And then this year, I've been working on a lot of policy things. I've been working on the complaints procedure, which is actually making it easier for students to deal with difficult situations where mediation could actually be able to help sort out those kind of situations, and also stop this bullying VNC culture that was put in place in the past, and so many other things. Then it's not long enough. I've been opportunity to be faculty rep of my faculty and deputy faculty rep and acting faculty rep presently, and I've been able to be a faculty board member for second time now. I've been able to see to the area of timetables. I've been able to make the faculty understand that there are people struggling with their timetable, and there are people with dyslexia and some other disabilities, that the way the timetable is being done randomly is unfair to some students. And as we're talking now, they're putting that into consideration, and by next academic section, when they're going to have a new timetable, these issues are going to be addressed properly. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a difficult one. As a volunteer, I've been a member of 14 societies and held 9 committee positions across the past 2.5 years. I've also been a member of RAG. With RAG, I've raised almost £5,000 now, which is a big chunk of our RAG total each year. I have directly overseen the founding and setup and seen through the process of building 3 separate societies, which are the Tea Party Society, Assassins, and Quidditch. I've been there from the start, holding committee positions and overseeing them. With media, I haven't been involved as much, not going to lie, but I have written for Galleon, I've appeared on Pure, and I've used UPSU TV in my fundraising. Speaking of fundraising, this year I've held the role of Society's Events and Fundraising Officer. I've had dealings with so many societies, helping them get their events out there, not just the traditional society events such as the Quidditch tournament, which I was directly involved with, but also promoting things like Reclaim the Night and other causes.
Yep, brilliant. You have had your hand up for ages.
Okay, so we have lots of societies that get a lot of guest speakers in, so Islamic Society, Christian Society, Law Society. Currently the Students' Union vets a lot of these guest speakers and works with Prevent to do so. Prevent comes from Section 26 of the Counter-Terrorism and Security Acts, which imposes a duty on public authorities, which does not include students' unions, to have due regard to the need to prevent people from being drawn into terrorism in exercising their functions. Do you believe that as a union, us working with Prevent and vetting such guest speakers has an impact on our students' freedom of speech and an open debate and discussion at university?
Okay, brilliant question. Okay, it's a brilliant question. I think that generally, as a movement, Prevent does have an impact on freedom of speech. But I think that the work we're doing currently with Prevent, we're trying to utilise the resources but not try and impact on our students. The university has a requirement to meet with the Prevent agenda, but we don't as a union. We choose to, or have so far chosen to work with them to try and provide the best for our students. I mean, part of what I think it is that if we work with the university, we can continue to use things like university buildings for those speakers, and that is better for our societies. Whereas if we didn't work with them and we actively pushed against it, there is a chance that further down the line, certainly wouldn't be an instant reaction, but further down the line, we could lose that privilege to have external speakers in our university buildings, and therefore have societies having to pay for external facilities to go and get those speakers to, and also lose the benefits such as the university helping to provide securities where we have some of the red listed speakers.
I think I'll just speak briefly on what you've asked. I think the rules are there and we have to play by the rules. So if the rule says this is what is obtainable, then we go by that. But if it is not to our interest as a community, then we can put that into a referendum or whatsoever and make changes. So if the universities have deemed it necessary to vet external speakers, so shall it be. But if it is not for our own interest, which I believe is for our own interest, then we come to stay. Thank you.
Okay, so I actually had a long conversation with a third-year criminology and criminal justice student about this matter earlier today, and the conclusion that we came to was that the processes we have at the moment are as they should be, in that every student should have the right to freedom of speech. However, where people coming in and giving those speeches may impact on the welfare and safety and well-being of other students, they should not be allowed to, they should not be given the platform to give their speech within the union, within the university. They can use other platforms, but while we may not hamper them, we don't have to facilitate hate speech on campus either.
Okay, so yeah, external speakers, I don't think they should affect the way like students' right of speech or change their opinion on a particular matter. I think external speakers is all about just going and learning about what they have to say. Students should be aware that they shouldn't be affected by and like change their opinion on a particular matter just because they've gone to someone's speech. But yeah, they shouldn't be affected and change their opinion of speech.
Yep, and we move on to our final question. Lady in the super dry.
Hi there. I know several of you in your manifestos mentioned facilities and wanting to improve them. And I know there's been a lot of problems this year, especially with societies like Circus Skills, the Acting Society and that, in trying to get spaces. So what I want to know is, how do you plan to improve these facilities for societies, especially societies that may have specific requirements for where they meet and what they do?
There are funding in place for societies and clubs, so facilities are meant to be improved, and definitely we better the funding and find a way to use the funding available to better improve the facilities. Thank you.
As was addressed in some of the sports questions as well, facilities are a real issue within the university at the moment, with a lot of groups struggling to gain access to facilities that meet their unique requirements. Reenactment requires 18-foot ceiling clearance and to be indoors. Quidditch needs just a patch of grass, and they're not able to get that. The Acting Society is now struggling to compete with academic groups for space in White Swan since they moved out of Wiltshire Building. Speaking of which, Wiltshire Building is sat empty for a while now. I'm sure the university has plans for it, but looking at the university's plan, it works over a 25-year period to improve facilities for student groups. I think that we really need a plan now. We need to reshuffle the buildings that we're using, make use of spaces such as the Eldon Courtyard, such as the Nuffield Hall, such as Third Space, in order to give societies, RAG, media even, but for the most part societies due to their unique requirements, the spaces they need to operate.
Okay, yeah, so for some societies, they do acquire particular facilities that the union does not have. So then in that situation, I'd like to approach the society and be able to offer them external facilities that they would be able to use. and work with them in maybe getting like a slot or like a regular thing. But yeah, like we would offer them support and make sure that they are able to train and use, they're getting as much out of their society as possible. So.
Okay, I think it's a really interesting point. Currently, a couple of ideas have gone through Have Your Say about specific spaces, and myself and the Society's Chair are working on this. But going forward, what I really think would work is the way that sports facilities are allocated, as far as I'm aware, is that the sports teams apply for what they need, and then they are divvied up to provide the best service possible. You get as many sessions as they can. Maybe we could do that with societies. We could do an audit of all the spaces that are available to us, then get the societies to apply for what they need, say we need to be able to do 2-hour sessions on a Thursday night, and then we'll look at to allocate those out. It would mean a lot more operational workload, but it would mean more fairness across the board, meaning that actually societies are getting what they needed. But that requires a two-way process, that we audit everything that's available within the university, and that's something that we're looking to do at the moment, but then also audit everything the groups need, because primarily we ask the group committees to run things themselves. They're very independent, but actually if they want more support on that, then that's something that we need to look to give.
Brilliant, right, and that concludes Vice President Activities question time, so thanks very much. Five candidates running for this position, 4 are with us tonight. So please can you welcome onto the stage Samuel Waite, Jamie Mitchell, Bethany Moody and Chris Pode. Okay, right, so questions from the floor. Yep.
Hi. Would you create any events during the open days / freshers affair to encourage students to use the services of the wellbeing services and to further create awareness of these facilities?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the first part of that question, sorry?
Would you create any events during the open days / freshers fair to encourage students to use the services of the wellbeing services and to create further awareness of these services?
Oh, of course, I completely agree that that's a completely viable idea, particularly during the open days. This is kind of the taster event that students have that they're presented themselves. Their parents will be there as well. That's the most important factor. They're going to want the knowledge and assurance that the welfare department, both the university and the union, is adequate and there to facilitate the needs of students, wherever they may be. And it's also because of the fact that as you are there, this is going to be the initial impression that you get from the university. You want to join what they know is not only going to be there for you academically and for whatever activities you may want to do, but because they have that there for your welfare, for any time you will need to use these facilities. So that is something I would like to do as well, particularly once, like you said, with the Freshers' Fair. Going forward to promote more events than that, not necessarily having a stand or anything of that nature, but simply being a presence around, going up to people, saying hello, introducing yourselves and things like that. The awareness is the big key issue here, and I completely agree with that idea, and that is something I would like to push forward myself.
Hi. Cool. So yeah, clearly we need a bit more awareness when it comes to what open days as well as Freshers' Fair. Open days, it does show a real example to parents, because parents are normally are the deciders of the students where they want to go. And obviously I was, being in the role I'm in at the moment, I was able to experience a little bit like that, where we had a welfare knock session going on at the Students' Union, and it was an open day. And a lot of parents actually came up to you and said, this is fantastic, because they have not seen this in other universities, so that will help us with applications. Going on to Freshers' Fair, again what Sam said about actually going to people, but I definitely looking to potentially go into more lecture shout-outs, because I feel like lecture shout-outs potentially are more of a drive, rather than just going to a really busy Freshers' Fair.
So I think one thing that's great about our university is that we are a very well-rounded university. I certainly remember when I looked at open days 5-6 years ago now, it gave the impression that it cared about your overall well-being, and I think I'd like to hope that that's something that is an impression that is still given out today. I know when I've had issues, I know people that have had issues, they've always been referred to the welfare services. I feel they are very well displayed and known about. However, there's always more we can do, and whether it be at freshers, lecture shout-outs, whatever it may be, there's always something more we can do.
Okay, so yeah, I like big events like Freshers' Fair. I think it's very important, obviously, to promote well-being and welfare. However, I think that it should be something that's not just at one event and should be carried out multiple times throughout the year. Potentially over Christmas and summer periods when people go home, students are left here on their own in halls or student accommodation. I think that obviously to them they need somewhere to go to, somewhere that's still open. Lecture shout-outs are also a good idea as well because you've got more people there than just like people that you live with. Yeah, I think so. That's fine.
Yeah, brilliant. Open the next question from the floor. Yeah, like I said before, galleons around, so manifestos are in there. If anyone's got any manifesto-specific questions. Yep. Yep, student at the back.
Okay, sweet. Recently, with the student activism that's been going on, there has been a breakdown in relations between many of the local residents and students, also due to the actual... Is it on? Can you not hear that?
Yeah,
is that better?
Okay, yeah, if you could repeat the question, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah. Recently, due to activism and protesting and also the nature of many students as well, there has been a breakdown in the relationship between students and local residents. How would you go about strengthening this bond between local residents and making sure that it's productive and a safe place for everyone?
Cool. So clearly, activism I think, is completely fine. Everyone has a voice. In terms of trying to keep the residents and students close together, it can go into a number of things other than just activism stuff. It could be proving to the city the amount of things students do for the city. It could be from showing awareness of, like, for example, volunteering in Portsmouth. They're constantly doing charity round events, and yeah, it's more of potentially just going around the community hubs that are around here and just showing that not every single student is going to come here and destroy the city, for example, due to activism.
I've held down a lot of different part-time jobs while I've been in Portsmouth, and that means that I've created a lot of friendships with, very good friendships with locals. And I feel that because of this, I've been able to understand what it is they dislike or do like about the students. And I think we need to be seen to be doing more. We do a lot already through VIP, but I think a lot of the locals don't see that. And we need to make ourselves more known than being more than just students getting drunk every night and trashing the place, because that's not what we are. We need to be seen to be doing something for them and giving them something back instead of just destroying their city.
Okay, so as one of my pledges, it was Community Impact Week. Not necessarily a week, but it's just to involve community with university societies, get them involved, just so it's a two-way relationship, so they understand what we do, not necessarily always drinking, going out, but then we can also support what they do, so whether it's like the societies of like ciders and ales, try all the pubs and everything, just make sure that we represent ourselves well. I know it's obviously a big task and responsibility, but I think it's definitely a two-way relationship that we need to focus on. And yeah, we're not just here to ruin the place.
I think that's a good question. It's also important to remember that many of the Portsmouth locals as well are also students here, so they can understand the difference and also the similarities between the issues that we cause. I think we also should highlight the positives that the union does. Having a student body and representation at university here helps to enrich the economy and the community of the place, and that's things that we should be outlining and showing the positives of that. Now, it would be negligent to say that we're denying any negative impact that the university has on the city as a whole. And that's something that we do need to address with the local community as well, kind of speaking to them and understanding that, yes, there will be these occasions where we are not exactly put in a positive light. So we need to talk to them, communicate to them about how we can improve and do better. And it's also a case of speaking to the students, be it campaign, face-to-face, putting information out there to say you have to respect this area as well. Whilst you can understand this is university, you do have to respect the surrounding area and the people who live in it as well.
Brilliant. Another question? Yep.
Okay, so one of the big issues this year around the board has been free printing, and coming from a position where you'll be looking to further our status as a green university, essentially. What are your thoughts on that?
Two of my manifesto points are around moving away with the paperwork, getting away the paperwork, online submissions. I think online submissions, that has already been suggested previously tonight, would resolve a lot of the problems here. It's not questionable that there are some academic study areas that you will never get rid of the paperwork, and it will always be needed. This is just something we're going to have to live with, but from a community and point of view, we need to make sure that there's adequate recycling facilities, which already exist, but improving them, just never letting what we've got be enough and always striving for more.
Okay, so as previously mentioned, I understand some courses such as radiography, it is all online submissions, and so I completely agree that all courses probably should just focus this way, and that your allowance for print credits should just be what you're given. Okay. But
thank you. Yeah, back to the original question. Printing is an issue. We do have quite an issue with students not feeling that they're getting their printing's worth, considering a lot of what we submit and put forward is paper-based. And that is a strong issue here. However, the other point that we brought up about having it put on digital to help cut down the green costs and also save maybe the whole printed credit issue as a whole. Yeah, we are moving into a digital age where a lot of things we do are now slowly starting to move online, for instance with Turnitin and things like that. We are starting to see a situation where most of our work done, particularly as incorporated with Moodle, is moving into a digital age. So that the digital aspect is something we'd like to see get moved further into. However, back to the initial point about printing and the whole subsidisation as a whole, I think we as a university do extremely well for our recycling and our green impact. Of course, we could always do better, but it also is a case of kind of identifying the need for printing as opposed to the want, but I will definitely say that there is an issue there.
Yeah, so I'll go what's already stated. A lot of the courses are going now online submission only, which is, again will prove really positive to the environment. And yeah, whatever's been said has been said, really. Can't really go any further.
Jack.
Okay, so the Students' Union couldn't function without the huge number of volunteers giving hours of their time to make it work, be it on committees, fundraising, or running events like this tonight. This means unsociable working hours and a lot of organisational stress on top of courses, and people who tend to be doing the work at the very top with the most organisational stress are people in second, third year who've got courses to really worry about. How would you improve support available to the volunteers within the union?
Okay, so first I'll just raise the awareness, because in first year I was quite oblivious to most of the volunteering opportunities, and you're in that perception where, like working for Pugwash, Galleon, you've got to be a second year or third year. So I think it mainly comes from like going through, obviously you've got Freshers' Fair, and just halls and telling them about events that's going on, that they can be engaged in actively. Obviously, I can't say that first years have less or more free time, but I feel like as a first year you do feel like you should have done more when you had, obviously, in the evenings and stuff, to relieve pressures from second and third years. So I just feel like there's a lot of awareness that needs to be done really well, first of all.
Yeah, to elaborate on that point further, it is the issue that we have to identify that students, whilst we do have all this extracurricular stuff, which is spectacular for what we want to do as a union or university, we have to understand that degree does come first at the university, and people want to be able to do that the best that they can, but at the same time they want to be able to do volunteering work for things like that, which can also help the CV look better, can help them get better connections, more in touch with everybody else. Which point two that I highlighted in my manifesto was establishing more of a direct line with the university student support. And the idea of that is being able to do that means that we can put more work in with the other departments. So perhaps students can find areas that they find are more suitable for them working in, that are more flexible or perhaps closer incorporated to what their degree subject is. And it also allows us to share workload with what the university does and help them with their resources as well.
So clearly there is a major push for volunteering on top of your degrees at the moment, and as simple terms as sometimes going up to somebody if they look stressed, or just simply saying how are you can make the world a difference. Something that I believe is currently being worked on is to have well-being committee training sections where the committees will learn all the services they'll hopefully be able to pass down to the members of constantly all volunteering. And obviously, yeah, it's just constantly just spreading awareness, and potentially when there's comes to opportunities fair and freshers fair and then potentially lecture showers, I think it's just reminding people that you to try not to take too much on, because people can have evidence of like, I want to do this and that and this and that, and then suddenly realising, oh, I actually haven't got time for this. So it's sort of just individual support and needs.
So I'm actually in my 4th year. So for this year and the previous year, I've been on the Law Society Committee, and obviously that's when my workload's been the most. But I have felt that the committee themselves have given excellent support to me. However, this isn't enough. I might have been on a committee that weren't so able to give me this support, and I would have struggled. There needs to be more, and I think it needs to centre around awareness. That there can be support for you. When I was in the committee for the first year, I had numerous meetings with members at the union to see how we were doing, but for whatever reason that hasn't been something that's happened this year. So maybe that is something that we need to look at, making sure that there is proper mentoring and support in place.
Brilliant. Is there any manifesto specific questions from anyone? Yep, go Lucy. Yeah.
So it's for Jamie regarding the nightline idea. Correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you want to basically make sure that there is a welfare service 24 hours so anyone can get hold of help if they need it, which sounds like a really good idea. Unfortunately, you are suggesting that it's run by student volunteers. How can you, one, ensure that those volunteers are trained enough? Two, ensure that you have enough volunteers to be able to promise everyone it's 24 hour.
Yep.
And I don't know if I was on A's or ones, but 3, how can you make sure that students who are in need of help at stupid o'clock in the morning want to actually talk to a student volunteer rather than a trained professional?
Yeah, I completely see your point. So the idea is it to have some kind of service from like 8 to 8, so that it does reach that nighttime economy where naturally some people potentially may feel more lonely. In regards to training, Nightline is a service that is in a lot of universities at the moment, so they're well recognised and well awarded, and they constantly do refresher training and provisionals, and they do, when I research this, they do conferences, so anyone that says, yes, I would like to be part of this, they go through a normal committee, democratic process, and they go to a conference, and obviously they'll come back and hopefully be fully trained. However, to keep them, to make sure that they are doing well, is probably have reviewers, and I know from doing research from other unions is that the sabbatical officer of the welfare side of it is always like a point of contact and a point of review. It's more of it's a trial thing, because the University of Portsmouth used to have a nightline, and I think it's about time we bring it back because there is a culture change coming. So it's...
Candidates, is that on? Yeah, all the candidates are allowed to comment on the actual idea and its tenability, so I'll open it up to all the candidates.
One thing that I will say first off is that there is already a 24-hour support service in place that the university has. Student support has a method by which you can contact a manager at any point, day or night, and if you feel that you have an issue, that it could be something small but it's worrying you, or if you could even have a crisis event, they will call somebody out and they will come and see you as soon as possible. Normally call times around about 15-20 minutes, they are quite quick about it. And from this point, they can then able to talk to the mental health team, the chaplaincy, they can get people called out that specialise to the need that you have. And then therefore by doing this, they can forward you on to the support services available, and then you can seek long-running support in the long term, albeit a one-off. This also happens for other things such as becoming too drunk at night or having a drug overdose. These are things that do happen, these are things that they work on. One of the points that I would like to do if I were to set up a line with student support would be to advertise that to a greater extent and then combine the union and the university's resources in order to advertise this and provide this service better to students.
I mean, obviously, I'm going to support anything that provides better welfare support to any student that feels that they need it day or night. I think it's an excellent idea. but the practicality of a student that is perhaps struggling and they're feeling very lonely late at night, whether they'd want to contact a stranger, that may be a fellow student, I don't personally know, but where it has been successful in other universities, then I would say that I have to support this idea.
Yeah, so like following on from Bethany said, I don't think I'd completely agree with a student calling another student as such, just for the fact that you may have met them on a night out before, where it might cause awkwardness. You don't know if you can rely on them as keeping you confidential. So I feel like if a scheme was put in place, it would definitely have to be external. Like through your work, you have My Safe Workplace. It'd be that kind of thing. Where then in turn they would then contact the university, and obviously put something in place for you.
Yeah, brilliant. Have we got another manifesto or kind of specific question? Yeah, shoot in the back.
All of you have mentioned well-being in your manifestos, and at the moment there is an event on the 8th of March, Reclaim the Night, highlighting the fact that a lot of students don't feel safe on campus. How would you improve students feeling safe on campus, both in the daytime and at night?
Yeah, can we bring the mic back to Sam just for...
So would you be able just to, I know you walked off with the mic, so just repeat that last part, sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
How would you improve the number of students feeling safe on campus?
Right, well, this is an issue that also, if you want to talk about a nightlife issue as well, this is something we're going to have to talk to about Eskimo 11 during the night events. This is something we're going to have to make sure that our affiliates as well as the students themselves are fully aware of kind of the attitudes at the time, what is available to them, how the best conduct of action done. Around campus, I suppose the main point to kind of address is the fact that students should all be aware of what the proper conduct is and should be aware of any safe zones that are available to them. We have to try and campaign to get that information out there as much as we can to private sector students and students in halls, so that everybody is familiar and aware with what should be done in certain cases.
Cool. So the march is going to be great. I reckon it's going to be awesome, and I feel like it's something that should hopefully happen year after year after year. In terms of promoting the nighttime economy, to start off with, is that the Advice Centre are constantly updating and promoting apps that you can download. So there's a thing called Be Safe, so you can contact with your friends on there. You can have an SOS button. It could be, you can actually set it so if you want to, you can track where you are, whereabouts you are in the globe, which is great. During the day, attacks are, I would hope doesn't happen very often during the day, but all the nighttime economy awareness can also happen potentially during the day, but obviously during the day there's a lot more open spaces you can go into, so if you're potentially getting followed, you can run into a shop hopefully. So it's sort of just spreading awareness of that you can be safe here, just take potential caution and measures.
I think, unfortunately, the thing that would be best to start with is to listen to people who have had a problem and listen to what exactly happened and how we can improve it. There is no one way of improving everything. We can only improve it by listening to experiences and listening to people and hearing what they would have done differently or what they wish was there for them to do differently. There is a lot of support out there. It's raising awareness of that support and making sure that everyone feels as safe as they can in our city. And yeah, I think that's everything really.
Yeah, I'd simply just say just to raise awareness, and like Jamie said about the apps, just promote the apps on posters around this, like universities, make sure that everyone's aware of how to access these apps. And yeah, basically it's just awareness, just comes down to awareness.
Yep, any other questions from the floor? Yep, shoot over there.
One of you mentioned
students are always going to have welfare issues. Welfare issues are never going to go away, and there is always something we can do to improve it. Nothing is ever perfect, and I think that is why so many people are pushing to continually improve welfare. The welfare system we have, I cannot slate. I think our counselling, our chaplaincy, etc., they're all excellent services, but we shouldn't settle, and we should always push forward for more.
Okay, to say that you're further promoting welfare doesn't mean it's not happening at all. It just means that, especially with Portsmouth University, it's continuously growing. The diversity in the city is obviously correspondingly growing too. So therefore, to say further, like to promote it, it's just further promotion, the continuous growth, raised awareness. Covers it.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, thank you. That concludes our Vice President Welfare and Community question time. Brilliant. We'll go to our final break now. So if everyone will be back at 25 past for our presidential question time.
If you don't like the one you're on. We stand up on your behalf when things aren't fair, giving you the voice to change things. And we let you stand up and speak for yourself. Get voting, get involved, get elected. So if there's something you'd like to do to make the most of student life, do it with the SU. Do you know what the SU do? Come and find out. We point you in the direction of the best parties and the best clubs, societies and volunteer roles, which could do wonders for your job prospects. We tell the media what you're paying for your student accommodation and challenge the landlords who want to charge you more. We've even taken collective action to stop students being deported. We get everyone round for tea. Students, teachers and people who live locally eating together. Sweet. We can make sure your housing provider treats you right. We do lots of sustainability stuff. We help you swap courses if you don't like the one you're on. We stand up on your behalf when things aren't fair, giving you the voice to change things. And we let you stand up and speak for yourself. Get voting, get involved, get elected. So if there's something you'd like to do to make the most of student life, do it with the SU.
For Students' Union elections, NUS recommends using the alternative transferable voting system. It is the most fair and effective way of electing a candidate. Suppose we wanted to elect one of these candidates to a single position. In some elections, you can only vote for one candidate. With transferable voting, you get the choice of saying, if my favourite candidate doesn't win, I would like this candidate to win. And if they don't win, I would like this candidate to win, and so on. If you don't like any of these candidates, you can vote for reopen nominations. This is called voting in order of preference. How is this election counted? First of all, we count all the valid votes in the election. We then work out the quota. The quota is the number of valid votes divided by the number of positions available plus 1. For example, if you have one position and 400 valid votes, the quota is 400 divided by 1 plus 1, and therefore the quota is 200. We then count all the number 1 votes for each candidate. If the candidate with the highest number of votes achieves or surpasses the quota, they win. However, if no candidate passes the quota, the candidate with the lowest number of votes is eliminated. If the eliminated candidate was your first choice, your second choice is then counted. We then add this number to the votes in the first round. If a candidate has still not passed the quota, we then eliminate the next candidate with the lowest amount of votes. If the eliminated candidate was your first choice, your second choice is then counted. If they were your second choice, your third choice is counted. We then add these numbers to the votes from the second round. This continues until someone passes the quota. Once a candidate passes the quota, they are elected. And that's alternative transferable voting. Congratulations on becoming a candidate in this election. You are now part of a huge movement that stretches back 100 years. Students' unions hold more elections than any other type of organisation each year, not just for sabbatical officers, but for course reps, trustees and many more roles. Thousands of students stand for elected positions every year across the UK, keen to represent other students on issues that matter to them. Being an elected representative is a rewarding and empowering role. You can help improve the lives of thousands of your fellow students. This election may be the first time that some of your students have voted in a formal election. You will literally be introducing them to democracy. Why do we have elections? To ensure that the union is led by the wishes of students, so it is relevant and effective. Representing students isn't a typical job, because students will disagree on what and how they are represented. For this reason, we can't choose winners based on standard hiring criteria, such as your experience and whether or not a panel think you are the right person. We elect representatives based on their views, ideas and popularity. The best people to decide who to represent them are the students themselves. It is also a legal requirement to elect the full-time officers in a students' union and is a great way to promote the work of the union to students. The officers represent students to the institution and local community and support student activities such as campaigning and societies. The purpose of representation is to secure social, educational and institutional change. The best officers work on all levels to change things for the better. What changes would you like to see in your institution? Is it something to do with your course, the library, the halls of residence? What changes would you like to see in the community? Is it about the transport links, the safety near the campus, the local council? What changes would you like to see in the union? Is it making the societies more accessible, a bigger focus on campaigning, encouraging the use of fair trade products? Once you know what you want to change, you can think about how you would change it. That is what will make you relevant to voters. Once again, congratulations on becoming a candidate in this election. Even if you aren't successful, you are playing a huge part in democracy. Thank you and good luck.
वे मेरा दिल धड़के मेरा दिल धड़के तेरे नाल सजना वे मेरा दिल धड़के मेरा दिल आशिकी हयाती नसीबी हबीबी आशिकी नाम तेरा पढ़के मैं लवली हो गया नाम तेरा पढ़के मैं लवली हो गया नाम तेरा पढ़के मैं लवली हो गया नाम तेरा पढ़के तेरे नाल सजना वे मेरा दिल धड़के मेरा दिल आशिकी हयाती नसीबी हबीबी.
Well done, guys. Leicester City, lads. Leicester City. No? Here we go. Here we go.
Major key.
Major key.
Major key.
Major key. Major key alert. Right. It's time for results. That is the trophy that our winner will be getting today.
You have been voting all night, and the results are in.
Lines are closed. Any votes that you put in now will not be counted and may still charge you. We've got all the votes counted up, accurate. I think it's been double checked, triple checked, everything like that.
We're going to ask the acts to come up stage.
Yeah, all the acts. All the acts here.
Give them a round of applause. Come on.
We're not calling the acts. Oh, they're all here. They're all sitting down. They're all coming here, yeah? Go on.
Voting lines are closed.
Binal Patel, happy birthday, by the way. Can we get a quick, while they come up, can we get a quick happy birthday?
Yes, please, Ian. Kyle, David, James, Ollie Hill, another chair. Can we move this a bit? Yeah? Okay, ready? Done. Okay guys, welcome back. Thank you. Good to see you all. Good to see you all excited about presidential question time. So without further ado, can I introduce all the candidates for President? So in order, Kyle Wesley, David Ayton, James Belmonte, Oliver Hill, Bosun Lamb and James Thompson. We try and sit in that order as well, please. Have we got... yeah, tight squeeze, everyone all right there? Brilliant, cool. Okay, right, so let's begin. First question from the floor. Yep, you got it.
Okay, so there's 4 other sabbatical officer positions. What actually attracted you and what makes you think you're qualified for the role of president?
Yeah, I think so. Sweet. So I'm currently I study business enterprise development, all about starting your own businesses up, going from the inception of an idea all the way through to actually executing it. I'm currently doing self-employed placement in which what I've done is create a platform that enables students to come together and create projects using the skills they have at university and actually look to solve some of the problems that we see locally, nationally and globally. Obviously, I don't want students to leave university just for a piece of paper and a degree. From that basis, that's why I went for president, because I want to integrate this philosophy of actually looking to do more and actually really progress and make some real progression in their careers and their career prospects towards the future. So that's why I've gone for this role.
So a lot of people will know here that I went for VP Activities last year. I realised that a lot of things that I wanted to achieve as last year, I have made really good progress this year in the various positions I've made. And what I really want to do is take a position that had a lot more strategic overview of the Students' Union. I believe a Students' Union should be a true union of students, and I believe it's only through President being able to encourage, support other students, officers and sabbatical officers, and I believe I'm a really good leader, and I'll be able to really force this kind of union of students and help enhance other people's voices. I believe I could only really do that through president, so that's why I went for president rather than any of the other sabbatical roles.
Yep, so the roles I've undertaken this year and the previous years, I feel I've been really successful in. I've actually led by example in each role. I feel as president, I'll bring a good passion and drive to the role and actually be successful and lead by example and lead the union to a better union.
So, I've been an engaged student for about 4 years now. I'm currently Vice President of Lacrosse. I was Disabled Students Officer last year. I'm on 2 media committees. I was a RAG recruit last year. Pretty much I've done about as much as you can do in the union as possible. So I really wanted to give back to the students. I wanted to lead and make good change and, you know, shape the union that I've been a part of for so long. And I thought, how do you do that at the best level? Well, you run for president. You get to be on the most important boards. You get to make all the big changes. I feel, yeah, so, because I wanted to make a lot of change, and I feel leading as president would be the way to do that.
Hi. As a president, and you have to work with the VP presidents, I guess leadership and teamwork is very important, and I'm currently the CCI faculty rep, course rep, online mentor of high school students in Portsmouth, mentor of all illustration students from year 1 to year 3 in this university, and I'm also a teacher that have been teaching in both Hong Kong and UK for more than 7 years. So I guess I have the leadership and social skills and also the teamwork skills. And as an art student, I guess I'm more creative than the other students. Also, I'm now a master's student and I have been in this university for more than 4 years. So I think I know this university quite well and I see the improvement in the last 4 years and I know what students want and needs all the time based on my faculty meeting or UAB meeting all the time in the last years. So I guess I do have the ability to lead the union, I guess.
Yep. Thank you. When the nominations opened up, I gave a lot of careful thought to all 5 of the positions. And what I first did was I sort of listed what I wanted to do and what I wanted to change within the union and the university. And from there, I sort of gathered that the things that I want to do doesn't necessarily fall into any of the other 4 job roles, and there's a lot of overlap. As well as that, over the 2 years that I've been here as a student, I've been in charge of Pugwash magazine, and January last year it was in a very weak state, and in that time I've been able to turn it around by leading a team into now a very strong position. And it's a combination of those things that make me feel like if I'm able to bring about change with that, I feel like I can bring about change as president, and that's really what the presidential role should be. It should be the figurehead that can lead and bring forward change to the uni and the university.
Brilliant, thank you. Open back up. Yep, question there.
Okay, so I've noticed a feeling amongst quite a few students that the way that the union runs at the moment is quite sort of commercially focused, quite a bit sort of opaque in the way that it does business, and maybe a bit sort of a bit too close to the university to properly represent students' interests. So my question is, what would you do as president to make the union more sort of transparent in the way that it does things, more independent and more student-led?
Yes, I think that's a really important question. I think it needs to be split down into two questions really. First of all, the commercial arm, and secondly, the bit about university. Still with the commercialisation, I suppose, of the union. So we have our charitable arm, and then we have our business operations that try and get money in so we can be able to achieve our charitable aims. I think it's very important that we don't lose that conflict, so that our business operations are bringing in money to be able to do what we want to do, which is enhance education and our welfare of our students here. But at the same time, they're not going against that charitable purpose. So we're not partnering with businesses that is going to have a negative impact on our students. Secondly, with the university, it's a really hard decision to make whether we should be this close to them or not. If we want to make change, we need to be in their meetings, we need to be with them, but at the same time we need that distance to show that we are independent. I'm running out of time, but I'd love to talk to you more afterwards if that's okay.
Sorry, can you just repeat the question again? I've forgot.
What would you do to make the union more sort of transparent in the way that it does business, more independent in general, and more student-led?
Yeah. Okay, so actually the union obviously does promote a lot of marketing material business-wise. One of my manifesto points and proposals was that actually, as a president, I'd send out a monthly email recognising student achievements and the events coming up. So actually it's more inclusive feel and we feel more as a community. As transparency comes, the students do need to be included in more decisions. There's been a lot recently with the awards. And students do feel they need to be more included with the awards. So I'd feel that students should be on every single working group that's in there and should include in every single decision.
Cool. So on your question about whether the business side versus the charity side, I do agree with David on a lot of the points. We have a business side of a union and that makes money to us allowed to further our charitable aims. Whether or not that's transparent enough, I feel we should be continuing to do what we're doing. We should just be a lot more open about it. Therefore, it can at least get some student consultation regarding it. Students are not necessarily angry because of who we do business with or how we make money, but because they don't have a clue about who we're making money with, and we're like, well, you know, I want to have a view on this, but I don't. And then you go and ask, you're like, oh, I can't talk about that. It's a closed-door meeting. So I feel it's just about literally saying, these are our business partners, this is the money it makes. Yeah, that may be a long line to go through because I'm sure there are some reasons why they're not being disclosed. But even then, just explain to students, okay, well, we can't disclose this because it's got like personal financial matters involved and we won't do that. But it's just about opening a line of communication with students and going, well, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. And hopefully that leads to some more transparency.
For the commercial bit, I do think it's necessary because running a university, you need lots of funding and money. And for the transparency thing, I guess our university is already quite transparent. Just maybe students do not know about it because we try to advertise it, but we don't really advertise it enough right now. For example, like if students have problem, they can report to their course rep, and then course rep can report to their faculty rep reports to the union, and union communicate with the university. So you can see the structure. Actually, our university is really transparent, and I guess the thing is we really need to promote it more to let students know we do have a structure, and we do, like, even our vote now is quite transparency. So I guess it's just we need to promote it more, and for the commercial bit, it's still necessary. Yes, we need quite a lot of money to run a university.
Thank you very much for your question. I agree entirely that both the union and the university needs to be more transparent in the way that they operate. As a union, we are supposed to be student-led and student-focused, and there are times and moments where students are withheld a lot of information, especially within commercial business practices, which can lead to a lot of black tape, and this can frustrate students a lot. Even within some of the democratic processes, there has been instances where students have been wanting to get information, they don't always get a clear and responsive answer. So in response to that, I feel like we should work more with the union and the university to encourage and promote more student feedback and consultation when it comes to working with commercial partners, and also in our democratic process, because in the end the union should be acting within the union members' interests, the students' interests, and I think that can only be achieved by really going to the students and consulting them about matters.
Okay, so firstly, the commercial activities aren't necessarily a bad thing. The problem with them is that they don't empower students to be commercially active, which means that the students aren't actually, in a sense, directly benefiting from that. Through transdisciplinary projects, what we could do is enable students to actually fully engage with the commercial activities, which obviously benefits them in a long-term career as well. It's like a process in a sense, very much, but actually with a financial benefit as well. In terms of the transparency, one of the things I will be doing straight away when I become president would be a transparency referendum for the union, which would mean that we would put a vote out there and see whether all accounts and all information that run by the union would be published to students, because you should have access to that. It should be completely student run and should not actually have that divide, in my opinion.
Yeah, brilliant. Student at the back over there.
So you've all got your sort of main manifesto points, your policies that you want to implement, but how are you specifically going to do that in accordance, working with the union and the university themselves?
So obviously, as president, you have one-to-one meetings with the Vice-Chancellor. In my first meeting, I will address the manifesto points that I raise and actually actively try and solve them from the start, because I feel it's if you actually actively try and solve them from the start, you've got a better chance, you've actually got longer to try and solve the problems that you've raised.
Cool. So in a similar way, you start off with your first meeting with the Vice-Chancellor, you go on to board meeting, and you put down your manifesto and go, this is what I want to accomplish throughout the year, and that starts in July. And then you go from there. So a lot of my manifesto points have got points on getting healthier food out, so that'd be talking to a head of catering and going, right, I feel we should get subsidised food, I think there should be more options there, so you go to that department. I want to increase learning space and computing facilities outside of campus, so you can speak to information services every summer. They have a refurbishment budget, probably wouldn't be implemented for the first summer, but for something towards the end of the year, because everyone already knows what we're doing this summer already. And then from there you make these manifesto points, and you go and speak to the relevant group, and you go to your boards and go, pretty much this is what I want to get done for the year, how feasible is it, can it be done, and work from there.
I guess always about communication with students, staff, and all the people in the university. So we have to make sure that most of the students want it, and then we report it to vice president or staff, and then we discuss if it's work. And we also have to look about the funding and do we have any people, time, money to deal with those sort of problems. And also sometimes something we put on the manifesto is not just only about the next year. It maybe we set up something so people in the next few years can follow up our plan and try to improve and make our student life and the student rights further and higher. So sometimes not just about next year we're going to achieve this. It's about we set up this and try to do this, and maybe we can achieve it after a few years.
Thank you. As my fellow candidates already mentioned, when you're elected into the position, you start off by meeting with the Vice-Chancellor and the rest of the university board. From the second I start office in July, I'd hit the ground running by working on my manifesto points immediately and identifying the relevant people that I need to talk to and work with and negotiate with in order to get my manifesto points done. From early on standpoint, for the 24-hour bus service, I'll probably be talking with the people around student transportation and first buses for the improvement of accessibility to welfare. I'd be working with both the union and the university wellbeing services, and then for my final manifesto point, which it would be working with the relevant people necessary in order for it to be enacted.
Okay, so I'm currently working with most faculty, a lot of the people in different faculties to try and get transdisciplinary projects already implemented. Through that, what I want to do is create a digital hub. A lot of transparency issues and democracy and access to information has been discussed today. What this, in a sense, basically is the review of Moodle, the review of MyPort, and basically create a social network bespoke and custom built for Portsmouth University, in which it replicates exactly what what Facebook does in terms of events and the way you engage with people, but you have complete access to that system as a student, and from there you could upload any different events, you could do the campaigns, you could have everything. So you'd have one single port where everything is coherent and every message is well received. From there, you can have a student marketplace, a student events company, student estate agents, simplified communications, calendars, online resources to everyone. This system is already underway being developed, and that is how I then continue throughout the year.
Okay, so I'd have a slightly different approach to some of the other candidates. I believe it's very important to build up networks and build up trust before you go in smashing with your ideas. So I'd want to go into the Vice-Chancellor and high-level players at the university and really build up that relationship first. This year I applied to my faculty, my head of school, for some funding for an event I wanted to run. I believe that I very much got that funding because I had that relationship with that head of school, because she trusted me to be able to deliver that project. And I believe that it's that kind of relationships you need to build before you go in and go, I want this. You've got to build up that relationship, and then I'll go in and push my ideas to get them done.
Brilliant. Have we got any manifesto-specific questions from anyone? Yep.
To James Belmonte. One of your points is the cultural induction day. Do you think that having one day as a manifesto point is enough to warrant you being president? Are you then going to spend the rest of the year just working on 2 manifesto points?
I think that's a good point. However, speaking to international students at the moment, some of them voiced their concerns that actually during the international orientation period, they don't feel they get enough support in helping them transition into a foreign culture, since they've not lived in the foreign culture. The day will actually help international students engage with other international students and actually make them aware of the opportunities that the union has. I think this will be an ongoing process to actually keep up to date with monthly emails to all students, but obviously the international students will be in there as well, so they're updated with what is going on within the union.
Yeah, and we'll open that up to candidates to comment.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's a good idea. I think there could be a lot more to be done. I think there's a lot of good people you've got to be working with. I know when we had the Edu Demo question time earlier, there were a lot of students who are having cultural issues and they were bringing those points up, but I feel there'd be good people to work with. I feel necessarily putting all the cultural issues with joining university into a day may not necessarily be enough. It should be, it should be something we'll be doing throughout the entire year. Maybe, and working on that, it shouldn't just be a one-day thing.
I think that's a really good idea, but obviously, like what he just said, one day is not enough. Maybe like every beginning and the end of the term times, but I think it's a really good idea.
As just mentioned, it's a good idea, but it could certainly be spread out to numerous events throughout the year. It's really as important as a university to teach more about different cultures and values and promote more understanding throughout the union. So I certainly think an expansion more than just for one day to promote culture is certainly a good step forward.
Again, yeah, a great idea. I agree. I believe it should be more than one day. It should be an ongoing process. There should be a buddy system in a sense where international students, and not even just international students, but all students that have that may feel marginalised in a sense, should be given an opportunity to actually engage with someone in a creative way, in a social way, in an intellectual way. Therefore, events throughout the year would be beneficial to these people. Obviously, as you were saying earlier, there are a lot of students that have come up